Okay, welcome. Apples from the orchard.
Don't scare them.
Garden of the Spirit. In memory of Rus, don't tell me, Malka Ruth Bas Moshe. Margarete Vogel, a special woman who actually discussed concepts in Kabbala with me. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Did you get the computer?
Are those even new glasses?
Did you get the one from the
Get them by the
computer in
dozen?
there? Okay, good, thanks. Okay. Coming to you here live from Longmeadow, Massachusetts, the center of the world.
To us.
That center with a C.
Center just got larger.
The center got larger? Yes. Not the S, not SC. Okay. Right? That's up in Deerfield. Center of the universe.
The center.
Okay. So we are learning now about the Karbanos, the offerings, and how the offerings correspond to the world.
It's getting very good, yeah.
Yeah. And we said that there are 5 realms. This inanimate, commonly called mineral, vegetable, animal, man, which in Hebrew is called medaber, the one who speaks, can articulate, and the 5th, the highest, is the soul. We are at 521 in the book. Okay, 521 under the box on top. And we're going to continue on about the sacrifices. Ready? Okay, Alan, go ahead.
Now, from each of the 4 lower levels, there are elements that need to be elevated and refined. All of these elements were rectified by the sacrifice. All the worlds that were created subsequent to the world of Atsilis were constructed out of the fallen remains of the shattered world of Tohu, the immature version of Atsilis. These divine sparks from the world of Tohu are embedded within all aspects and facets of reality, in all the lower worlds, including, of course, the lowest one, our physical world. By using any particular element of reality for a divine purpose, the spark enlivening it is released from its existential entrapment in anti-spirituality and ascends back to
We're on air.
its source.
You want me to say something?
You already did.
Spiritualizing reality in the process. When all the sparks will have been liberated in this way, the world will have attained its maximal spiritual potential, and Mashiach will come.
Okay, that is a great sentence. By using
Yeah.
any particular element, released from existential entrapment and anti-spirituality. Very nice.
So, is anti-spirituality physicality or
Yeah. Apparently.
embedded somewhere in physical world?
It's within the physical world.
But ascends back to its source because it's going back up one of the higher levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Back up to there.
There, right.
Godliness.
Right.
Okay. Prototypical.
The prototypical example of this process is the sacrificial service in the Holy Temple. The temple is the microcosm of creation, and the rites performed within it are both a symbolic of and actualizations of the wider divine service that mankind performs in the world at large.
So what happens, the service and worship that happens in the Beis HaMikdash or in the Mishkan, helps reveal the godliness within each object, and also it is symbolic of the holiness, of the godliness. This is why the Torah was given on Shavuos on the 6th day of Sivan. But we look to the dedication of the Mishkan as a step in godliness coming into the world, which happened 10 months later on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the following year. That was a big deal, the day we dedicated the Mishkan. Rabbi Edelman would always say, to point out what the Torah says, Vayaram, Vayaronu, that the cloud came, they saw the glory of God, and the people, Vayaronu, probably means they broke out in noise and song, they rejoiced, maybe haraz, I'm not saying that it's a joke, some kind of a celebratory shout that at the Shechina that had come to the Mishkan. That's why that was such a special day.
Probably not like one like Dan gives.
Such a special event. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
Got it?
Yes. Connected with what you said before, with precious
Yes.
metals.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of metals.
So go ahead, Ellen.
To wit, salt is a mineral, and through it the mineral kingdom was rectified. The wine and the oil offered with the sacrifices rectified the vegetable kingdom. The animals rectified the animal kingdom. The confession of the animal's owner recited over the animal corresponds to the articulate kingdom, that is man. The intention of the priest Cohen while he was offering the sacrifice corresponds to the soul within man. Through these 5 aspects of the sacrifice, the 4 kingdoms are elevated. All animal sacrifices were salted when they were offered on the altar. Wine and oil were also offered along with most animal sacrifices. Immediately before the animal is slaughtered, the owner of the sacrifice must confess his sins in the case of a sin offering or burnt offering, or express his thanksgiving and joy in the case of other offerings to Hashem. The intention of the priest while offering the sacrifice is an essential aspect of the rite. If something is amiss in his intentions, it could render the sacrifice invalid.
So, all 5 domains of the world are represented in the sacrifice. This is so different from the common view of sacrifices.
How so?
Huh?
How so?
If I'm not mistaken, the common view. If I'm not mistaken, someone a few months ago, this past winter, was telling me, or maybe I read somewhere, that the reason they had sacrifices was because they worshipped the golden calf. They needed a physical outlet for worship of God. People today, not necessarily a Torah view, are talking about the cruelty to animal issue. I think someone mentioned to me that there are opinions that when Mashiach comes, we won't do the sacrifices, won't need them, because we're civilized, and the people at that time were primitive. The common view is that it's about a primitive urge. And what's it for? From here, there's a total different perspective, 180 degrees, that we elevate the world to God. People understand that we eat. Okay? If we can get away without eating animals maybe would be better, but I'm not ready to go there, so it's not really cruel. It's coming to putting to good use. The other way is to look at every action that we do, every act, as something as worshiping God. So when we're eating, we're worshiping God. When we are, the sacrifices are worshiping God and are essential, not just for the person and not just for the person's devotion, but the animal is elevated, and the entire animal kingdom is elevated every morning and every afternoon through the sacrifices. And here we go through the 5 domains: mineral, vegetable, and so on. This is a revolutionary concept for many people. Besides, I think that you can tell people that it's for a spiritual service, and the people can, okay, you accept that. Then tell them, and I'm going to take a guess here, then tell them, okay, you're going to have to pay $400 for that sheep or goat. You're going to have to pay $800 or $900 for that steer, for that ox. And suddenly they're like, whoa, I'm paying $900 for an ox to be slaughtered here and burned on the altar? Suddenly it hits home. But that is the, at least, you sponsor the Kiddush. Everyone's son has a good time. We eat. So anyways, so that you think about the cost involved, the expense that went into each animal, that went into the wine. And if they didn't buy the wine that they sell by the gallon, you had to have the best wine. Think of Cain and Hevel.
MD40, no.
So,
but that's why it's called sacrifice.
Right.
In English it is. But I'm saying people, I guess you think differently if it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone, the government or the Beis Hamikdash is buying an animal, and it's okay, it's not my money. But if you say, you know what, you have to bring the animal, and I did go a few years ago, and I looked online to see what animals cost. I was planning some assignment for the kids, and I wanted them to.
Animals are expensive.
Yeah, animals can be expensive. There's a story in the. There's a story in the Mishnah. I showed Moshe last week, Misha. At the birds, the doves, were too expensive for people who needed to bring offerings to bring them. I think it was, and so don't remember the name of the rabbi now either. I used to know. He made a ruling, a special ruling, and that the people that a lot of the women, for a lot of the situations, don't have to bring the dove. And the price dropped by the end of the day to 2 silver pieces, 2 bits. I think it was 1% of what it started at. Because at the beginning, a lot of women had to bring 2 doves, and with his ruling, he ruled the other way. He exempted everybody from bringing it, and the price dropped to 1% of the original of what it started off at the morning. Right? I know what Gershon is thinking. Why didn't I short? So, I should have bought puts.
No way to predict it.
So in any case, yes, the fact that they had to bring, of course, had a big effect on the price too. But if you're saying, but obviously the wholesalers, the dealers, made sure that they would bring in when at the times, by the holidays and so on, when it would be necessary to bring. But in any case, you're talking about hundreds of dollars. That means animal in the morning, animal in the afternoon, or a sheep in the morning, a lamb in the morning, lamb in the afternoon. The price is less. But someone's bringing a 522 at the top. Rudy, ready?
These 5 aspects of the sacrifice are the nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechida. In addition to manifesting themselves in the material reality of this world and the proto-material reality of the spiritual worlds, the 5 partsufim correspond to the 5 aspects of the spiritual reality of creation. In other words, the divine soul. They thus correspond as well to the 5 aspects of the sacrifice. So, Keser is Yechida, Chochma is Chaya, Bina is Neshama, Chesed Gevura Tiferes Netzach Hod Yesod is Ruach, and Malchut is the Nefesh.
And also the aspect of sacrifice, the second from the right.
The intention of the priest of Cohen.
Yeah.
Was that? No, okay. And then Keser is the intention of the priest, which is the Kohen. Chochma is the confession. Bina is the animal. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod is the oil and the wine. And Malchut is the salt. So the Nefesh, the life force, is the behavioral aspect of the soul, and thus corresponds to the Svira of Malchut, the expression of the higher Svirot. The Ruach, or spirit, is the emotional aspect of the soul, and thus corresponds to the emotional Svirot, the Midos, from Chesed to Yesod. The Neshama, or breath of life, is the intellectual aspect of the soul. The Chaya, the living one, is the soul's innate wisdom, and Yechida is the single one, is the soul's identity with Hashem's Nefesh.
Now,
I'm sorry, God's Nefesh.
Essence?
Essence.
Yeah, it would be nice if these 5 were also put into the matrix on top. The first 3, Ruach, Nefesh, and Neshama. The Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, life force, spirit, and breath are within the boundaries of the person, exist within the person. The last 2, Chaya and Yechida, exist beyond the person. I don't know exactly what that is, the innate wisdom, what that refers to. But in any case, those 2 are beyond the person. On the Yom Kippur, which is the one day of year that the Kohen Gadol goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and so on, the Yechida is the aspect of oneness, single one, and the Yechida is revealed. Don't know if I've seen that somewhere, perhaps not, but that is special on Yom Kippur. That's why we don't need to eat, and we don't need to be involved as much in the world. All right, go ahead, Rudy.
This is the mystical meaning of the verse describing the sacrifices, a fire offering, an aroma that is pleasing to Hashem, as we will now explain.
Hold on. The Torah says regarding the sacrifices, Ishay, a fire offering. Isha is a fire. Reach nichoach, a pleasing aroma. Nichoach, I don't think is used anywhere else in this way. Just referring to the sacrifices. Reach is an aroma. Reach nichoach, a pleasing aroma, Lashem for Hashem. In my opinion, it's an unusual term. The Torah says it by a lot of the sacrifices, but as an expression, it seems to be a little.
What's the root of nichoach?
That's a good question. I'm thinking about that. It's close to Noach, which is to be at rest. which is to be at rest. We have these words, a lot of them have the second letter doubles. Like we have room, which is to uplift, to raise, and then we have romem, romemu. We double the mem at the end. Offhand. And this one also, I guess, is Noach, and it turns into Nichoach. I'm guessing that's the root.
Okay. Similar to Nahum. Nahum.
Close. What do you call it? Etymologically?
Mm-hmm.
They're not related. Although sometimes we do find connections with roots that have 2 of 3 letters similar. We do find that words have similar meanings.
Mm-hmm.
But etymologically, when he's looking at the roots, they're different.
Okay.
But these they're called kfulos, where you double the last letter. Okay.
So the word a fire offering, or isha, corresponds to nefesh. Since it is the feminine, this word can also be read to mean woman or isha. Also, fire is a symbol for malchut, as in the phrase a consuming fire.
Which was in last week's parsha. Just in the parsha last week. All right. Let's see what that is.
So the word nefesh literally means blowing. This may be one conceptual link to fire, which one blows on to increase. In addition, fire reduces the offering to its mineral constituents. Malchut, the svira that corresponds to the soul level of nefesh, is the feminine principle in creation, as we have elaborated on previously. The phrase "a consuming fire" describes Hashem when revealed to creation, which, unless properly prepared, cannot bear the intensity of the revelation and is consumed by it. The indwelling of Hashem in creation is the feminine aspect of Hashem, the Shekhinah, or divine presence.
Anyone get that?
I'm still thinking about it.
Huh?
I'm still thinking about it.
So nefesh is blowing, is linked to fire to increase.
Which
So, like the barbecue. Yeah.
like the barbecue.
Fire reduces.
Can't get that out of your mind, huh?
So the
The-
fire gets it into ashes, which is
The fire divides. Let's say fire burns on wood. It splits it into the 4 elements. You have the smoke. You have some moisture, ash, and fire.
good.
Ash is dirt.
It's mineral. That's correct.
So you have the 4 elements there. So what it does is it connects fire with malchus with feminine. Words, Aish, a woman is Isha. Isha is like Aish, fire.
The last 2 sentences I'm still grappling with. Consuming fire describes Hashem when revealed to creation. Who's revealed? The consuming fire or Hashem?
Hashem.
The phrase "a consuming fire" describes Hashem when revealed to creation, which, unless properly prepared, cannot bear the intensity of the revelation is consumed by it. So, what can't properly prepare?
The creation, the world cannot. You've mentioned this a few times. The world can't tolerate the blast of godliness. when
Yeah,
you said that the world can exist with judgment. The world cannot exist
Okay.
with the overwhelming holiness.
No,
So
it
the
just-
world has to be prepared,
it
just
threw-
like a fire.
Yeah, it just threw me, the phraseology threw me for a loop. When Hashem when revealed to creation.
Yeah.
Very noisy.
Teenagers.
Someone's having fun.
The teenage girls, what do you expect?
Go in there and teach them chemistry, they'll quiet down.
Here,
Yeah.
Chaf Dalet 24.
Ki Hashem Elokecha eish ochlahu el kana. Yeah, he's a jealous Hashem God. Yeah,
Okay, and he's a consuming fire.
consuming fire. Okay,
Okay?
yep.
All right. Go ahead. So 523 at the top.
The word for aroma, reyach, corresponds to the ruach, which in turn corresponds to the world of Yetzirah and the parts of Zer and Pin.
So reach is smell or aroma. Ruach is the ruach, the spirit,
Spirit,
a part one of the second level of neshama. So that vav and yud certainly are even sometimes interchangeable. So we have a connection right there. As opposed
to the bland, inanimate characterization of nefesh, ruach is characterized as colorful and fragrant, due to its being the location of the emotions. The words reach and ruach are also obviously cognate to each other.
reach, yes.
The 4 or 5 letters of the name Havaya, the 5 partsufim, the 4 or 5 kingdoms, the 5 aspects of the sacrifice, and the 5 levels of the soul all correspond as well to the 4 or 5 worlds. We may thus expand the above charts as follows.
What are the 5 letters of the name Havaya?
Yud-Heh Vah-Heh.
Huh?
Yud-Heh Vah-Heh.
That's 4.
Uh-huh.
What are 5?
The dot.
The
The
Yud-
The
Chuk-
horn.
The horn of the yud.
The horn of the yud, the tip, the thorn of the yud,
Yeah.
the tip, the point,
as previously discussed.
as previously.
Yes.
So, Sephiros Tohu, we have Keter, Keser. In the parts of Intikun, the Keser splits into Atik Yomin, the ancient days, and Arich Ampin, the long face. The name Havaya, the upper thorn of the Yud, aspect of sacrifice, the intention of the priest, Kohen, so that's the highest.
So what he adds in from the last chart is the column on the right.
The level of the soul is Yehida, and the world is Adam Kadmon, primordial man. Chokmah is the father. The name of Havaya is Yud. The aspect of the sacrifice is the confession. The level of the soul is Chaya, and the world is Atzilus. Bina in Tohu corresponds to Ima in Tikkun, and Hay of the name Havaya, the animal in the sacrifice, the level of the soul is Neshama for Bina, and the world is Beria. Chesed, Gebura, Tiferet, Nezachot, Yesod, the emotions, correspond to Zer and Pin. In Tikkun is the Vav of Havaya, is the oil and wine, corresponds to the Ruach of the soul, and is the world of Yetzirah. Malchus corresponds to Nukba, the female of Zer and Pin. The name of Havaya is the last Hay. The aspect of the sacrifice is the salt. The level of the soul is Nefesh, and is the world of Asiya, action.
Okay?
That
Okay.
is pleasing
That's the word nichoach, the word that found in the Torah.
corresponds to the parts of Ima, the Neshama of Beria. To Hashem corresponds to the inner soul of this Neshama, that means Abba. With it, we have constructed the full 4-letter name Havaya. This is the secret of the phrase, a sacrifice to Hashem, Havaya. That's from Leviticus. In offering a sacrifice, the person sublimates the 4 powers alluded to in the name Havaya and manifests in the 4 kingdoms of creation, as we have mentioned.
Hold on. we said that Ishe, there are a few words here. Ishe, Reach, Nichoach. A fire offering, aroma that's pleasing to Hashem. So the fire offering is Malchus. It corresponds to the bottom, to the Nefesh, the lowest part of the soul, and to Malchus. And that is the word Ishe. Going up, the next word is Reach, the smell. That refers to the emotions. That refers to the emotions, and that would correspond to Yetzirah. And then Nichoach refers to the pleasing, refers to the parts of Ima, the one in the middle. Going across, the Bina, Ima, Hey, the animal, Neshama, Bria, that is the word Nichoach. He does not explain why. And then La Hashem refers to the inner soul of the Neshama, Abba. Okay, the four words, Ishe, Reach, Nichoach, Hashem, refer to the four rows, going from the bottom of this chart up.
Farther
Did I lose you guys?
No.
So the four on the right.
The four rows.
Oh.
The whole row. So we can add another column. And in the column, the bottom one will be the word Ishe, the fire offering. The second row up from the bottom will be Reach, fragrance, aroma. The third up from the bottom will be Nichoach, pleasing. And the fourth up from the bottom will be Lashem for Hashem. Ishe, Reach, Nichoach, Hashem, working from the bottom up. And according to this, the top one then would be blank so far, unless he gives us something else.
All right.
No.
That is pleasing corresponds to the farsus of Ima,
This is
the Neshama of Beriah. To Hashem, did I read this already?
Yes.
Yes,
All right.
you did.
All right. Know that all the animals, beasts, and fowl have a soul, nefesh, which originates in, descends from, and is influenced by the holy beasts.
Hold on. Yeah, the holy beast.
Holy beasts,
Yes.
If the creature is pure, if the creature is ritually pure, tahor, it descends from the holy chariot. And if it's ritually impure, tameh, it derives from the impure
You
chariot.
don't know what the holy beasts are?
The ox, the lion, the eagle.
Isaiah, correct? Ezekiel, one of those. Ezekiel, okay. Gave us the picture
The Merkabah.
with a dude.
44.
These are Christian words.
Oh, look at that.
44. You'll have something to think about tomorrow.
Yophanaim.
Kadosh, 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 Shem, Solas, Malach, Holaras, Kodo. Holy, holy. What's the next one say? And the Ophanim.
Yes.
And the holy Chayot.
Uh-huh.
That's the holy beasts.
Oh.
With a mighty sound, rise towards the Seraphim. And facing them, they offer praise and say, blessed be the glory of the Lord from his place. Ophanim means wheels.
Uh-huh.
And the holy, that's a of angel. Then there are the holy beasts, and then there are the Seraphim. Seraphim means
Fire angels.
fire angels. Burning. Okay, so that is the holy, I guess, there are the holy beasts. What do we say? If the animal, if it's a kosher animal, it comes from the holy chariot. If it's a non-kosher animal, it's from the impure chariot. And notice, what does he say? That all animals, beasts, and fowl have a soul, nefesh. In Hebrew, we have a few words for soul. We have nefesh, we have ruach, and neshama. Those were the three that we mentioned, the first two we mentioned before. Then there are two more. We said chai and echita. But any of these three are usually translated as soul. Ruach, the spirit, perhaps, but each three are soul. But people have neshama. The animals, they don't have soul that's neshama. Their soul is only nefesh. There is a what's the word? Viable soul. It's a soul that gives life, but not a soul that gives intelligence.
Okay.
Okay? All right. 524 at the top. Go ahead.
The divine chariot, a vision of a person riding a chariot, is described most vividly in the first chapter of the book of Ezekiel, but appears elsewhere in the Torah as well. It is generally understood to be a depiction of the hierarchy of, how do you say that? Hierarchy of divine powers through which Hashem channels his life force into the world. Each detail of the vision embodies a different aspect of this organization of life powers, and all the details eventually find their way into various manifestations in this world. The holy beasts here are the four celestial creatures that bear the divine chariot. This was their appearance. They were human figures, but each one had four faces, and each one had four wings. The faces and their wings were alike on the four of them. As the likeness of their faces, each one had a human face in the front, each of the four had a lion's face to the right, each of the four had an ox's face to the left, and each of the four had an eagle's face in the back. Corresponding to this divine chariot is an impure chariot, or the array of powers through which Hashem channels life force into the realm of evil, in order to create and sustain it, until such time as its purpose has been served and it can be dispensed with. Well,
What?
that's hopeful.
Okay. All right. Okay, Alan, you want to continue?
The souls of the domesticated animal descend from the face of the ox of the chariot. Those of the wild animals descend from the face of the lion in the chariot. Those of the fowl descend from the face of the eagle of the chariot. The permitted kosher domesticated animals of this world are derived from the face of the ox in the chariot. The permitted wild animals are derived from the face of the lion, even though lions themselves are not kosher. The permitted birds are derived from the face of the eagle. Forbidden animals and fowl are derived from the corresponding faces of the beasts of the unholy chariot. So usually that they're derived from, even though the kosher is derived from non-kosher animals.
Well, why? Because it's the holy chariot. This is the holy chariot.
Yeah.
So the lion of this chariot is holy. So I guess
Right.
it's
Say it with the eagle.
in a sense, like it's a kosher lion, a kosher eagle, in a sense.
Kosher-like.
Kosher-like. You wouldn't believe it's not.
It also represents the forefathers.
Huh?
It also represents the forefathers in Yosef.
And Yosef?
Yeah, Yosef is the ox.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, good. Very good. Did we have that in the class?
Well, I knew that from before. But
You know it, apparently.
I think
You may have
it
had
was.
it
I think we discussed it a few months ago.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, Moshe being the ox. I mean, Joseph.
Yosef
is
being
the
the
ox.
Not Moshe, Yosef.
I always
Wait,
Yeah, they're so
and
similar.
their kids.
I don't remember from the others. Okay. In any case, I'm laughing because it's so hard to keep track of what we learned. Okay, so these are the kosher animals come from here. It's domesticated animals and wild animals, or non-domesticated animals.
What is a permitted wild animal?
That's kosher. I mean, it's
It's one of the wild
Is that what it
animals
said?
kosher.
Well,
Yeah,
just because
deer
it's
is wild.
Deer's
It's not
wild.
domesticated. Not to say giraffe, but
Deer, yes, deer is,
Deer-
in Hebrew, we have two terms. We have behema and chaya.
Right.
Really, behema could include all animals, But when we start talking about in this sense, behemoth we say are domesticated animals, means it would be sheep and goats, and the bovine family, and the non-domesticated chaya refers to non-domesticated animal including deer and the deer family. If you look in it's hard to find translations for the kosher animals. There are only 10 kosher animals, and a bunch of them we're not sure of what they are. Rashi, I think, translates it as a buck.
Deer, yeah.
But I think there's deer, and then there's a different species, which you translate
It was
as
a moose or elk. There's still.
No, there's moose, there's elk, there's impala.
Since when are moose kosher?
They are. I'm saying we don't know some of these.
Reindeer.
Yeah, but moose is not kosher?
Yeah, reindeer. What?
Moose is not
No.
kosher?
Doesn't have a
Moose?
split hoof.
Oh, really?
Giraffe is.
You just don't know where to shove it.
Yeah, I know.
But
I don't think it's not so simple.
No, I didn't say it was simple, but there's an example of a kosher animal that's
That's wild.
non-domestic. It's a wild animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not 100% sure that that's
I mean, I don't know. Are rhinos and hippo? I don't know.
they aren't.
I never got close enough
Well,
to check.
here, hand me the.
I'm not going to either.
I didn't know the moose didn't. I just bumped them all the same.
See,
I
so
don't
some
go
of these
close
are
to moose.
obvious.
When it comes to an animal, a behemoth has to have a split hoof.
Hoof and
it has
chew
to
its
chew
cud.
Yeah.
Okay, here are the list of kosher animals. Ox, it's a bovine.
Yeah.
Sheep and goat makes 3.
Yeah.
Hart and deer. Okay, now
Hart is within the family of the deer.
right, but here we list them separately.
Okay.
So they're 2 distinct families, and that's how they're translated.
Right,
Ayol and Tzvi. Next we have, and this is how he translates: Yachmor, Akko, Dishon, Ta'o, and Zemer. And as Yachmor may be a fallow deer. Akko, according to Rashi, is the ibex or
Okay.
steinbok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's someone who lives here named Steinbok. The ibex.
Ibex are the ones with a very
Long horns.
straight. No,
No, no.
Long what?
straight horns. They go straight up. That's the ibex.
I think the ibex. Chulin describes it as a wild goat. I think they live at
They're in the Middle East.
Nahal David, near Ein
They're in the
Gedi.
Middle East.
Yeah,
They're
the
in
village.
Egypt.
But you see them sometimes. We see them
In the
walking
mountain-
on the ridges of mountains.
The mountains. Yeah. Mountain animal.
They do make.
Dishon
safari.
by uncle is translated as a type of antelope. Ta'o is a wild ox according to Rashi. According to Rav Kafach, there's other opinions. Zamar is a giraffe according to Rav Sadia and Radak. Chulin in the Gemara seems to understand it as a wild goat. So
I
we're
mean,
not-
you look at goats in the family. I mean, the ox in the family. Buffalo would be in that family too.
in which?
Of oxen. Right, buffalo. They're definitely not domesticated. They're a wild animal.
They're non-domesticated,
They're not domesticated.
but they are in the. I think buffalo is.
Buffalo
Bison
is
Bison
kosher.
is kosher.
Bison, buffalo, it's similar, same thing. But they're in the oxen family, and they're wild. They're found. Yes, now they can be
Now
raised
they're
domestically, but
domesticated.
originally they were wild. Originally they were wild animals. All the stories you hear of everybody chasing herds of buffalo.
There is a.
In the
There
Africa,
is
you got herds of water buffalo.
There is a translation. I mean, there is. I think in the Shulchan Aruch, I think it mentions buffalo, and specifically it says by that name, buffalo, and I think that the people say that whatever he meant by buffalo, that's not this buffalo. Whatever he says about it, I don't remember what it says about it. Rabbi Moshe used to talk about it too. I wish I remember what it was. Yeah, but you have all these animals. You have these
Right.
things. You see, they don't even bother to translate. Aryeh Kaplan would be a good one to look up in the Living Torah. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that at the end. Anyways, so by Jewish law, The chaya, the undomesticated animal, would be the deer, and let's say the giraffe. Perhaps, I don't know if the wild goat may fall into that. There are differences between the domesticated animal and non-domesticated animal. By domesticated animals, and so these are the only 10, by the way. These are the 10. We're not even sure what they all are.
As far as meat.
As far as meat, yeah. As far as meat.
As far as meat.
Meat.
Yeah.
The domesticated animals were not allowed to eat certain fats called chalev. The chalev, the Torah says about chalev that it gets burned on the mizbeach. We're not allowed to eat that. Today, any slaughterhouse butcher needs to know exactly which fats are permitted and which ones are forbidden. It's as serious as eating blood. Very serious violation. The fats, the chalev, the fats of non-domesticated animals like deer, are permitted. So that is one distinction. The other distinction is that birds and non-domesticated animals, when you slaughter them, the blood that comes out needs to be covered. We do it with the bracha. Domesticated animals do not have to have the blood covered. So we sprinkle some dirt. We sprinkle dirt over the blood. You don't have to cover the entire blood. You pour dirt, sprinkle dirt on top of the blood, or pour dirt, and we say a bracha first, and then pour, and that fulfills. So that is non-domesticated animals, and that is the birds.
This is during shechita.
Yeah. So those are halachic differences between the domesticated and the non-domesticated. Furthermore, the Gemara talks about one animal that it says it's not clear if it's which one it falls into. The Hebrew word is kvi. People write koi, but I think the pronunciation would be kvi. And I think they talk about that. They say buffalo. It's not clear what this kvi is. The Talmud talks about it, and it gives differences of opinions. I want to have whatever they had. And the Talmud says
it's called youth.
Huh?
It's called youth. It's called youth.
The Talmud gives differences of opinions of exactly what it is. Okay? I looked it up. I haven't looked it up in a while. But that's the kvi. So it comes to the point where if someone, the laws of vows, of vows have their own thing, because you can make a difference between a vow. For example, if someone says, I forgot how it goes. Like I say, okay, if two guys are walking and they see an animal far ahead, and let's say it happens to be this kvi, they don't know. They see it far away, and one says that's a domesticated animal. That's behemah. The other one says no, it isn't. It's chaya. And then they get into a big fight, and they get a little crazy. They just had some drinks. So one says, if that's a behemah, I'm gonna give $50 to tzedakah, or if that's a behemah, I'm gonna have 3 beers when we get home. The other one says, if that's a chaya, the non-domesticated animal, I'll give $50, or I'll have 3 beers, or I'm not going to have wine for the rest of the month, or something like this. And then they get up there, they get closer, and they see that it's this kvi. It's this animal that
you don't know.
That the rabbis couldn't figure out which one it is. So you have, and then if it turns out to be this animal, this guy's got to keep his word. It turns out to be that kind of animal, he's got to keep his word. If it's kvi,
they both got to give money.
Yeah, well, they can give the money anyway. I think,
right.
I don't remember, but that's, but you whenever you talk about vows, you can find any difference in a vow, because someone says, right, if this and this, then I'm going to do the following. Okay? So that is
does the Leviathan, is that going to have to require Shkita?
What are you?
no. They gonna know where to shift it? Just beach
I'm
it.
being serious.
Just beach it. I don't know. I think it says they're gonna shift the Shor Habor. The Giganticum bovine. I don't know.
Okay.
But Leviathan
I don't know, it could be a mammal, I don't know.
could be.
It's a fish.
It's a fish.
So it's a fish?
You don't shed.
Sea creature.
Yeah. So you don't shed the fish.
I understand that, but I don't know, we don't really know what it is.
We'll find out when the time comes.
All right. Where did we stop?
The animal
In the middle
soul.
of the page.
Just
The
finish-
animal soul. Rudy, you want to continue?
The animal soul of man descends from the human face of the chariot, whether the holy or the
10 minutes.
impure one, as detailed at length in the Zohar. When a person sins, the Zohar explains, he draws down upon himself a spirit from the side of impurity, which then has complete sway over him. But if he makes an effort to purify himself, he is assisted from on high to do so. When the temple stood and he brought his offering, his atonement was nonetheless suspended until he repented and broke the pride of that spirit and humbled it. Thus, the individual has the power to determine which chariot's influence he submits himself to, the holy one or the impure one.
Of course, in the Tanya, it talks about the two souls that people have, the animal soul, the instinctive soul, and then the godly soul. The godly soul is our pull towards things holiness, and the instinctive soul, it just runs our physical functions.
Okay?
So it could go either way. Our physical functions, I mean, we eat, we sleep, and watch a game, whatever. So the regular things that we do, the living things that we do that are essential for living, that can be total holiness. Could not be. So it can go either way. That's what he says here. Continue, Rudy. Bottom of 524.
All this nonetheless applies only to the superficial, in other words, animal soul, for the inner divine soul is always entirely holy. The divine soul remains pure, undefiled by the influence of the unholy chariot on the animal soul, even if the person elects to sin.
Okay, so that's not touched. Gershon 525.
525. It's from there, that means from the divine soul, that the inner nefesh, ruach, neshama are derived. Although both the divine soul and the animal possess all five aspects from Yehida to nefesh, when we speak of the three aspects of the nefesh, ruach, neshama, we are usually referring to these aspects of the divine soul. When we speak of the animal soul, we usually only consider the nefesh.
That's what I said. Nefesh is the lowest level. And that we usually speak when we talk about higher levels of soul, it's the divine soul. Go ahead.
Now, it sometimes happens that when the soul of an evil man is descending into the world to be born, and at the same time the soul of a domesticated or wild animal is being emanated downward into a physical animal being born, the human soul is grafted onto the soul of the animal in order to punish the human soul in accordance with the decisions of the heavenly court. This is
Okay, I'm going to start off by saying that this is most probably very uncommon.
Okay.
The evil person.
What's uncommon?
The grafting of a
Why
soul
is it
to a wild animal.
Happens all the time.
Alright.
Bad dog.
You think?
Why is it uncommon?
I'll tell you later.
Statistically speaking.
Okay, go ahead.
This is a description of transmigration of souls, Gilgul, wherein someone who dies without having repented, that means having done teshuvah, for his sin is sent down again into the animal body. This experience is extremely painful and frustrating for the divine soul, in that it cannot express its divine nature as it can in a human body. by learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. This experience is meant to demonstrate to this soul what it has wrought by its sins in its previous lifetime, and thereby scar it on its enamor with the material side of life. Once cleansed of this, the soul can proceed with its ascent in the spiritual realms. The purpose of divine punishment is not to exact retribution or vengeance, but to effect the restitution of the soul to its former proper spiritual status.
Okay.
So it's like in soccer you descend to the minor leagues.
Being sent to the minor leagues?
Oh yeah, that's big punishment.
How about if you're 2 down or 3 down? How about you're being sent to the little leagues?
It's A, B, C, D. So.
I'm saying, imagine if you're sent to the little leagues?
You can't go to the little leagues. Minors, you go to little leagues.
We
You
go
can't.
one at a time.
Remember what
So
I said?
you
It's
can
highly
jump.
uncommon.
Yeah.
I think it's very uncommon. We'll continue the discussion later,
right.
Rudy. I think it's very uncommon, and it's being sent like not going down to the minors. It's like being sent to
Yeah, there.
3 or 4 below the minors.
With this, we can understand the mystery of the sacrifices which bring close those who are far. The Hebrew for sacrifice, korban, is from the word for close, karob. The sacrifice is designed to, unintended, to bring the offerer close to God.
Then
Hashem,
the
whatever.
sacrifice is the English word. In Hebrew, it is karban, which means close. Today in Hebrew, they use karban to be a victim, also, but it does not. The word itself does not mean sacrifice.
Alright. It can also happen.
So should we finish up? Should we leave it? We have a little bit more. It's getting late.
Finish the page? No?
Huh?
Let's do one more at least.
One more thing. Do one more thing.
It can also happen sometimes that the sinner descends and is found in the animal's food. In either case, whether he is reincarnated into the animal or its food, the animal is thereafter offered on the altar. And when the proper rites are performed on it, his human soul within it is brought close again to its source and rectified.
So it goes into the animal's food. Animal eats the food, and then it's brought on the offer, and it gets rectified through that. There was a wonderful example given by Rabbi Blooming. I heard him years ago speak in West Hartford before I moved here. In his book, he tells of 2 cows. I'm going to do this very briefly. He tells of 2 cows. One is selected by the chef of the Cordon Bleu. Is that the name of the restaurant?
Cordon Bleu.
Cordon Bleu. Oh, that was a different restaurant. By the Cordon Bleu, and it's the animal, and the animal is prepared, blah blah blah, according to the highest standards of chefdom, and served to some big event going on in the White House, world leaders. The second cow that's there gets sent to the kosher slaughterhouse, gets shefted, is put in the butcher shop, and a family, and then families go in and buy that and serve that meat at their Shabbos table. And then he writes, which cow would you rather be? The idea being that the animal is elevated, when in this case being used on the altar, in the other case being used as a mitzvah, as a way of honoring Shabbos.
I'd rather the one roaming around still grazing.
Huh?
I'd rather the one still roaming
Oh,
around
got it.
grazing.
Okay, I missed the beginning.
All right.
Okay, so everything here is about elevation.
To
That would mean that you'd actually have to eat.
1 minute.
What?
That would mean you'd actually eat.
Grass.